Welcome to CSC 200 class. This is EX5 and we'll get you started here. A couple things that you'll need to open first. I'd recommend opening up the w3schools.com PHP tutorial. We're going to probably copy and paste some things from here just for reference. Also, you're going to want to launch MAMP, and I have MAMP launched already. I can see I have my Apache server and my MySQL server already running, and then I could do open my web start page. And remember, when you open your web start page, it opens this one that allows you to launch phpMyAdmin. And on the Mac side, we have a link that opens my website. That's the one that goes to htdocs, if you remember doing that from EX4. So if I go to my website, there's my EX4. Now, on Windows, it doesn't do that. It just goes, you just have to put in localhost. There's no link to that. So just remember when you do that, or you could go right in here and just kind of take this off and just go to localhost and do that. And then I don't need both of these open here. You don't need your web start page open because we're not going into phpMyAdmin, at least right now. So that's all we need right now is just your localhost open. And this is the last one that we worked on, and there's the index page. Notice that when you go to EX4, it goes to the index page. That's the first index.php. That's the first file in that folder. And this is what we did last time, and we're going to fix this up a little bit and we're going to make it look nice. So that's what we're going to do for EX5, and we're going to use the same information. We'll even use the same query. We don't have to do anything a whole lot different, or we could change the query a little bit, but we could use what's there. All right, next we're going to go to brackets, and this is my EX4. You can see my index.php file is displaying. Now it's not really open. Remember, we can double click on it and then it shows it as a working file, and I'll close it. Now, one thing I just want to point out, if you kind of click on it and it shows it here, even though it's not technically open, it is still open and you could work on it. We're going to make an EX5 folder, and sometimes it's kind of confusing because it's confusing for me, so it's probably confusing for you. But if you right click down here and you go to make a new folder, what it does automatically is it tries to put it inside the EX4 folder. You can see it's indented, so it's in that EX4 folder, and it's really hard to not do that. And I'll right click and I'll delete it and get rid of it. And then you might think, oh, well, I just have to close this up. And now I'll right click and do new folder, and it does the same thing. And then you have to delete it again, and it's kind of frustrating. And what I realized here is just closing it doesn't help. What you have to do is you have to do file close all. You have to make sure this is blank here. So when this is blank, then you could go to control new folder, and you can make a new one that's parallel to the EX4. It's going to be in the same directory. It's not going to be inside. So then I'm just going to call this EX5, and that's what you're going to do. You're going to make an EX5 folder, and then inside here what you're going to do is you could just go to open your other one and just copy it. You could just do a Control A or Command A and then copy it, Command C or Control C if you're on Mac or Windows. And then I'll go down here. Now I'm going to close this one up, and what I want to do in here is right click and make a new file. And you can see it did it in the wrong one again. So I didn't mean to do that, so let me close that up, and I'll right click here and I'll delete it. And now that nothing's open, I'm going to go on this one here. Now that nothing's open, I should be able to right click right on this EX5 and go new file, and now it puts it inside that EX5. So if it's a little frustrating for you, it's frustrating for me too, but just be aware of when it's indented, it's inside that one. So just make sure you close everything, and then when you right click, you do it right on that folder. And this one's going to be called also index.php. Remember, we're not using HTML right now, it's index.php. And then what I'm going to do here is I have an empty file. It's just empty right now. And I'm just going to paste what I had copied from my EX4. What we're going to do to this file right now is we're going to fix it up first of all. And not that there's anything wrong with it, but what we should really have, because our file has a doc type, we should really start with this. Our file should really start with this. So I'm going to actually copy all this PHP that's at the top. I'm not going to copy it, I'm actually going to cut it. So I'll do a Control X or Command X, and I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to put it inside the body. As a matter of fact, I'm going to get rid of this stuff. We don't need this anymore, this hello world, my first PHP page. We started off with that. I'm going to paste right over that. So I'm going to do a Control V or Command V and paste right over that so that I actually start off with my doc type declaration. Even though it's a PHP page, I still want it starting off like an HTML page. And then once it goes inside here, it'll start reading the PHP. So everything in here is going to be the same that we did last time, except we're just going to reorder it a little bit. Okay, so everything's going to be inside the body tag because we are displaying information inside the body, and that's where it should be. So it should start like this, and I'd also like you to just rename the title. Just put EX5. And I guess we could call this second, I guess. It's not really our first. We could just call it my second PHP page, or you could just call it my PHP page. We won't even see this anyway, so that's not a big deal. But we do want to move this. So we're moving our PHP and we're putting it inside our body tag. So just be aware of where your body tags are. Sometimes we'll indent these, but like we'll indent the body tags here. You could hit tab, and then down here it's tab, just so that you know that the body tags are inside the HTML tags, and they're kind of parallel to the head tags. The head tags just have our title, and that's the only thing we have in there right now. And we are going to put some styles in there, because we're going to make a table in here, and then we're going to style it, and we're going to put some internal style declarations inside our head tag. So we're going to do that eventually, but before we do that, we just want to make sure this works. So I'm going to save this just to make sure we didn't screw up our PHP at all. And I'm just going to do a Command S or Control S to save it, and then I'll go back to my browser, and here it has EX4. So I want to hit my back button, and I want to make sure I go to, and I'll refresh. And now it's showing me the EX5. So there's my EX5 folder, and when I click on it, it should show me the index.php that's in there. So let's see what happens. And there it is. If you screwed something up with your PHP, you'd get that kind of error in the middle of the page. So this is what it is, and now you can see I don't have that my first PHP page or whatever, that stuff down at the bottom, hello world. I took that out. All we have is connected successfully to world, because we're connected to our database. And what we want to do here is kind of make this look nice. It's nice that we have all this stuff showing here, except it's all kind of jammed together. We put some spaces in there, but it doesn't really look nice. It's really hard to read. It's jammed against the side, so we're going to fix all that. Some of it we're going to use some CSS styling to make it look a little bit nicer. Some of it will just be some basic HTML. So it's not going to be a whole lot of PHP here, although we will do some PHP at the end, because we're going to actually display the number of rows, and we're going to need PHP to do that. So we're going to do a couple things here. So let's get started with this. And I'm going to go back to brackets, and like I said, we already copied that. And what we want to do next, here's our query, just to look at this again. Remember, we set up variables, we set up a MySQLi function, and it has a variable name of con. Remember, the variables use $signs, and that was basically connecting to our server name, our username, our password, and our DB name. So that's the one that says it's connecting to world. So we know we're connecting to world, and everything seems to be working okay. And then moving down here, there's actually a query variable that basically represents the query that we're going to run, the SQL query inside quotes that we're running from PHP. So inside the quotes is the query that we're running, and we've run queries already in phpMyAdmin. We're just going to run it from here. And the one that we ran was select from country in our world database, where continent is North America. Now, maybe just for the sake of this, maybe I'll just change this, because we had used North America. Maybe I'll change this to Oceania. I think it was like that. It was ocean with an IA. We'll try that one, because I remember that one from our database. And if you don't change it, that's okay, but I'll just try a different one. And then this part here, what it actually did was it runs this while loop. So it's a loop that says, okay, while we're getting results, put them, basically display them, and display them with a line break. And that's what it did. So while we're basically getting results of our query, where we're getting all those different records from North America, we're basically displaying them, and then we're putting line breaks. And that's what it looked like here. Just put a line break. If we looked at our, I'll just view my source right now. I'll go to view source. And you can see what it did. It just put all this stuff, and it put line breaks in between. It doesn't look very nice, but that's basically what got returned in our page. This is kind of the DOM that gets returned. And you don't see the PHP, you basically only see the HTML in the DOM. That's what was returned. That's why PHP is secure, because people can't read your PHP here. They could only read the HTML that's generated. And that's all they see is generated when they look at your source. So that's our source, and that was what was generated. Doesn't look very nice, and we're going to start to make it look a little bit nicer. So to make it nicer, we're actually going to make a table. And let me stop here and take a break, and then we'll pick up with making the table in part 2 of this video.